Now, with only a couple of available slots left before I have to dive into Guadeloupe rum, I thought I would bring three Martinique rums that I've actually kind of fallen in love with. Now, these may not be for the canehead purists, but I think definitely the angle I preach at the sort of under £50, under $60 US, 60 euros, I think these rums fit in exceptionally well. However, a couple of them are just slightly over that price budget, but we'll deep dive into them. Now, fear not, caneheads, because I have got more stuff lined up. We could talk about Martinique rum, from what I've learned, for another 2, 3, 4 months. So I will be coming back to Martinique after the summer of cane juice is finished. I think it would be stupid of me not to, because there are some belting rums, and I've already got some cracking interviews and brand stuff lined up for a few months' time. So we will be coming back to that. But in the meantime, one of my favourite rums that I've seriously fallen in love with, and will be, I'm spoiler alert now, I'm going to give it to you. This is going to be a forever stock for me, because this is absolutely delicious in my book. This is the Rum JM. I'm going to try and say it properly in French. Terroir, see, I failed already, you know. Terroir Volcanique. So let's dive in and let's tell you all about this. Now, half the reason I will be revisiting Martinique is because, I'll be honest, the next couple of videos, I'm not actually 100% sure of what they are, apart from them being Martinique Agricole rum. Well, yeah, Martinique rum, we'll go there. This one is AOC. But yes, so I will be tapping into Ash's knowledge. We've had Ash on this channel a couple of times, our Spiribam brand representative for Rum JM and for Clermont here in the UK. So we will be tapping up Ash for some more knowledge. But this, as I said, is, hopefully you've probably seen it on my social posts. I've just absolutely fallen in love with it. It's a 43%er AOC. Why can't I say Terroir? I can't say it. Terroir Volcanique. Anyway, what I think that relates to is there's a mountain, a volcano in Martinique called Mount Pelée, which kind of erupted. There's obviously volcanic soils, lush soils around there. What I think this actually relates to is the cane that kind of grows on those sort of luscious soils. So I think the whole point of the terroir is kind of paying a nod to that different kind of cane that you would probably get in a generic kind of field. So this is the thing you have to really appreciate with agricoles, with Martinique, with French styles of rum. It is almost, to dumb it right down, it is almost like grapes, okay, with wine. Different grapes give you different tasting wines. And that's not really the same with molasses-based rums. Molasses-based rums, yes, there are so many differences. Look, it's all fermentation and aging and distilling techniques and all that. But molasses is characteristically pretty similar. All molasses pretty much taste identical until a distiller or a blender does their stuff with them. However, with cane juice, it comes directly from cane. The whole point being is all different types of cane are going to make very different types of rum, because they haven't gone through that whole sugar production element, which gives you the molasses as a byproduct. This is just essentially cane that's been juiced and then fermented and distilled. So what I think this refers to, as I've said, is pretty much a different, where the cane is grown, a different area in Martinique compared to what Rum JM may normally put in a bottle. Okay, stuff like the Can Bleu from in the Clermont range as well. Again, a very specific type of sugarcane. So I think that's what it refers to. There is not much knowledge. The whole back of the bottle, if we could give you the back of the bottle, the whole back of the bottle is in French, so I've got no hope with that at all. But yeah, that's the loose understanding that I can kind of give you. But the nuts and the bolts that I can give you, Martinique, 43% ABV, column still, obviously, because of Martinique. They do put on their press a 3-year-old, but I swear I was told it was a 4-year-old rum, but we're going for 3-year-old. That's what they put on their PDFs and their brand stuff that they put out there, which is pretty minimal. And thank you, Ash, for sending all that stuff through. Barrels, it's been aged in American oak. But let's get on to the price of this. £40 in the UK, which translates to $52 in the US, so 46 euros. Again, so what I've realised throughout this whole series, that actually, do you know what, in Europe, your prices for agricole, probably because, you know, France will import a lot of it. It's no, you know, mainland France, mainland Europe. So we would naturally pay a little bit more. But what I've found is that actually in Europe, you're paying a damn sight less for. So as I said, you know, if you've got these rums, you've got access to these rums, then drop your prices of what you've paid in there. But in the UK, pretty much at the moment, £40, okay, which is $52 or 46 euros. Now, on the nostrils, this is such a delight. It's like a banana-y, honey, fruity kind of mishmash of flavors going on there. You do get a little bit of sort of the wood note. You do get a little bit of the spice note, but it is, I would go, my top note, I would go honeyed banana. That's the kind of vibe that I really pick off. As you kind of sort of swirl it around and let the sort of air, kind of the aromas come out, and maybe potentially get some pineapple off there as well, that fruity sort of pineapple vibe. Maybe even that sort of vanilla. Bearing in mind, this has been in a barrel for 3 years. They are kind of inherently the notes that you would get off like 3-year-old or 3, 4, 5-year-old rums. You know, you'd probably get a lot of sort of that vanilla before you sort of get the caramel, the dried fruit notes that go for 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old rums. But, you know, if I keep relating it back to this, because I think it's a genius way of kind of describing it. If you go onto the Rum X app and you see those spidergrams, I maybe might put a picture up on screen for you for what I'm talking about, for those of you that haven't got the app. But, you know, if you do a spidergram where you've got the whole fruity, woody, spicy, rounded, roasted kind of thing, I would definitely put, there is those, obviously those aging, so you have got a bit of woody notes to it. But for me, it's definitely more influenced in the fruit direction. And I think that's why I've kind of fallen in love with it, because, as I say, that really punches out there on those fruit notes. But the interesting thing for me, I potentially wouldn't pick up the sort of floral side, the agricole side, the sugarcane juice side that we potentially have come used to with those, especially the white, the blanc agricoles. I don't get any of that sort of floralness. Maybe a touch, but definitely not grassy, definitely not herbaceous, definitely not, my favourite word, vegetables, definitely not vegetal. Seriously, I don't get those. It might mellow out. I've only just opened this bottle. I've been trying it for quite a few weeks now at Rum Fests and shows and stuff, but this is the first time I've owned this bottle. So it might open out a bit, but in the moment, no. So my point being is, would I pick this as a cane juice rum just off the nose? I'm not overly convinced I would, other than it's a very different fruity profile to what I'm used to with molasses rums. So again, it would be a process of elimination. Would I smell it and go, cane juice? No. Would I smell it and sit there and think about it for a while and hang on, well, Jamaica smells like this, but Barbados has kind of got that sort of style to it. This has got a softer style. I would probably get there through process of elimination more than me saying this is cane juice. However, on the taste, and it's easy for me to say this because I've got the bottle here, I know exactly what I'm drinking. But on the taste, I think it is a very different story. It's got that silky luxuriousness that I've become used to now with cane juice rums. It's got that softness. It's got that roundedness. It isn't caramel, toffee, chewy, or anything like that. It's just soft, lovely, delicious, fruity, hint of vanilla, hint of oak, hint of spice. It's just different to molasses rums. And that's all I can say at this precise moment. It's just a different vibe that I pick up for it. I saw a word on the PDF that Ash sent over to me, rich and creamy. Again, I don't think they are words that I've used in this series so far, but I 100% agree with that. It is a rich and creamy rum without it being anything like rich as you would kind of do, maybe think of Dawley's 12 or a 14 as being rich. It's a very different rich. And I think that only really comes down to cane juice. And yes, this journey, I'm still, at the time of shooting, I'm still properly only 3-4 weeks into this journey. Give me 6 months, give me a year into this journey, and I would probably give you a very different vibe. But I'm assuming this is going to be the same for a lot of you as well. A lot of you may be watching that have maybe never had sugarcane juice rums before. So you'll all be at this sort of similar point to me. You might not pick the difference between molasses and cane. You'll just get, it tastes different, it feels different, the texture's different. That's all I've got for you at the moment. But just to run you through everything that I pick up off this, let's go from the top. The very first sip, vanilla from that 3 years in the barrel. A very, very sort of minimal touch of spice. I'm not sure what that spice is. I'm not going ginger, I'm not going cinnamon. I'm not ruling out nutmeg, but it's soft. It's kind of soft. It's probably more vanilla-y that's kind of sort of overlaying on top there. I get on the finish, I get a little bit of chocolate. No, not too much. More dairy milk, more sort of that sort of style of chocolate, that light milk chocolate. But then it just opens out into fruit. Tropical fruit. Banana, very different to Jamaican banana. Pineapple, very different to Barbados, even Jamaican So say that again. So you got, I'm mixing my words up now. So we've dealt with the banana, but the pineapple is, again, it's very different from the pineapple that I would pick off Barbados or Jamaica. But it's there. It's like a really ripe, fruity pineapple. But I emphasize again, I don't really pick up the floralness. It's just that vegetal floralness that people will associate with white Blanc agricoles. I don't get it. It's almost like it's the 3 years in a barrel. It's just kind of rounded that off, taken that away, sent it on its little journey. But god damn, this is delicious. So this has turned into quite a waffly kind of video for you, but let's just sum up the 3 questions. I've kind of given the game away already, but you know, do I think it's value for money? Have I got anything behind the bar already that I would compare to it? And would I restock it? So, you know, I've already said yes, 100% restock. Now, I'm not really taking price into the equation here because I do enjoy it so much. But if I'm being absolutely super critical, £40 for this is maybe a little stretch. It is maybe a little bit more expensive. However, as a, you know, it's that thing. I've fallen in love with it. So if it's a rum that without even hesitation, I'm just going to walk in here in an evening, I fancy a rum, it's going to be at the forefront of my mind. So for me, that is £40 well spent. But do I think that £40 is indicative of other £40 rums, molasses rums, where you might, for those of you that love your aging, this is where I'm kind of driving at. For those of you that love your 8, your 10, your 12-year-old rums, you know, where you are transfixed by that age, that number on the bottle, where you want more sort of, you know, this has been the interesting thing for me over the last few weeks, is actually being around the rum family, where, do you know what, a lot of them are like, do you know what, actually, you know, aged rums aren't really my thing. You know, people, I'm surrounded by a lot of you guys, a lot of the audience watching, you know, there's these comments coming in about 10-year-old rums, 8-year-old rums, 12-year-old rums. But actually what I'm finding, the more and more I'm being out and about in the rum community, is actually, do you know what, 3-year-old, 5-year-old. There are some fantastic rums there. Now, if you're coming from whiskey, this is my point, then yes, you are probably used to those big woody notes, and there is nothing wrong with that. As I say, you do you. But that's the point I'm driving at. For you guys, £40 for this is probably a stretch because you haven't got those big woody notes. You haven't got any of that you're used to from maybe a £40 whiskey, or even a £40, don't know, what's Dawley's 12-year-old, 40, it's got to be around that £40 in the UK. So that side of, you know, that side by side, no, it's probably a little bit expensive for you. But for those of us that really like younger aged rums, that really love the sort of the texture, the different flavours that are picking out on there, I think £40 is actually well spent on this. As I say, you know, hopefully I've kind of justified that. Have I got anything behind the bar that tastes like this? No, not even remotely close. I'm just looking at the rum. So, you know, the rum St. James has been my favourite so far. I would pip that over that. And that's a belter. That's a permanent stock for me as well. I absolutely love that. But it's a sipping rum. I'm pipping that over the top. So again, like for like, not really. The HSE XO has got more on it for you whiskey, you more barrel lovers than what this has, but this is properly up my street.